whatnot. Those, I have a blog. I guess many people here read it. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. And so anyway, I also do consulting and stuff on the side, so if anybody's interested in that and going into more detail, because in 15 minutes I can't cover everything. I don't just cover one product, I'm covering all kinds of different things. So one thing I always like to point out is that I call this the saddle curve of basically where consumers look at an image like that and say it looks terrible. Is it broken? And scientists might make contrast measurements and color quality and all that. But the technocrat or technophile will say, but you have to understand how hard it was to make that image. And the problem is that we've got a lot of problems to solve. This is, I call this my list of 20 because it bounces up and down. I keep adjusting this with different things. Like, for example, disparity this year became a buzzword. Had several companies talking about that. And actually, it was talked about a few years before that. But the idea that when frames flex, that the two eyes are not going to get a matched image, and you have to do something to correct for that, or you have to come up with an extremely rigid frame and well-aligned. But anyway, there's just all these other factors, and I always call this the n-dimensional chess problem, that you've got to solve all these at one time, and usually when you try to solve one, you make all the others worse. I'm mostly going to talk, because it's the hot topic right now, I'm mostly going to talk about the smart glasses category. But I tend to think of, I've kind of added a fifth category. We have the smart glasses, we have full AR, which is where you start adding SLAM in. And I tend to use AR to mean anything that's optical see-through. I get feedback, some people push back on that, particularly the ones who have SLAM in their product don't like me calling it AR. They wanted it called HUD or something even more derogatory. We have portable VR. That's what where I look at the birdbath type of things, I've started to call that basically a portable VR product. When you look at how it's being used for things like handheld video games, to give you a big display with a handheld game. And it's also being used for movie watching, portable things where basically they're doing VR-like stuff, but they're just doing it on the go. So it's a lightweight portable VR. And then, of course, we have things like Stan was just talking about, VR with pass-through. But I oftentimes say that what you have to make a decision on is what's your primary interest. Are you interested in the virtual display, or are you interested in the real world? Now, Stan's product and Lynx is a little bit kind of transgressing that hit it a little more focused in that direction. But the big thing for us is that for the optical see-through world, we're pushing physics every 6 ways to Sunday, as we like to say in America. Diffraction is which was a non-problem for a normal display, is our first order effect. Étendue tends to drive everything because we're fighting getting lots of light through small orifices. There's no area for heat dissipation. I always say, where are we going to get rid of the heat? That's actually, for me, the most interesting thing about silicon carbide that was talked about earlier, is that the heat dissipation, that's a lot of surface area. That's probably more surface area than the whole rest of the glasses. So there, and then, we want it to be less than 50 grams, which is a really tough constraint. When glasses are turned off, that's job one. Now, one thing that's getting talked about a lot lately, by Meta particularly, they seem to be single factor analysis on what they call rainbow effect, which I call far field light capture. But that's become a kind of their big bugaboo because it keeps showing up in all their presentations. Then we have the social aspects, things of style and whatnot. This amazed me that with Google just showed their glasses, and they were still showing things that looked like the person had flashlights on their eyes. I just don't think that's going to go in that. Now, we have other problems, though, even more subtle, like even if you don't see front projection, you might see the person's eyes looking sideways and whatnot. So if we look at AR optics, I'm not going to get too much into this because I think most of this has been covered today. We have diffractive gratings, reflective, birdbath, which we've talked about. There's laser scanning into holographic mirrors, which I think the tiny eye box kind of tends to limit them extremely.